Hey everybody, Sheri Keffer here with tv.newlife.com, and I am really excited today. We have a guest, so many topics come up for tv.newlife, and this has been one of those topics that I've thought we've got to find somebody who's an expert. Clay Cranford is actually a sergeant with the Orange County Police Agency, and he has become you're an expert resource when it comes to the digital world and how to empower families, kids, teens, and educators on what to do with all this crazy digital stuff out there that has been, on one aspect helpful and at the other far end of it harmful. So how do you take this tool that's out there and do some things that would help to hem your family in better so that they can not be put in harm's way? And you hear the old saying is, if you don't do anything, you end up exactly where you don't want to be, right? And so empowering us to go, what is it that we can do to help bring safety into our homes and our kids' lives? So it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So how did you get into this in the first place? I know you're a sergeant, you're a dad, you've got two boys.
I got two boys, 13 and 15.
Yeah, and so you're in the thick of it yourself.
I am. I'm on the same journey with all of the parents.
Yeah.
I was a school resource officer for 3 years, and every day I was dealing with students and parents and families struggling with things that have happened online. And they always said the same thing to me. They always said, I did not know this could happen.
Yeah.
The students said, I didn't know this could be the consequences of my choices, and parents thought, I never thought or conceived this could happen to my children. And then I moved on to the behavioral threat assessment team. So I would go to schools all over the county of Orange and interview students who brought weapons to school or made threats of violence, and many of those threats occurred online, on some kind of social media platform. Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of where it started.
Yes. And so I found that there wasn't a lot of resources for parents, and they were looking for help, and I felt like this could be an area that I could step into.
Yeah, well, thank you. So our first show today in our series is going to be actually talking to parents and educators and helping parents and educators know what to do to stay safe. So can you define social media for us? I mean, what is social media?
Yeah. I define social media as any electronic device that allows you to communicate with another human being. So we need to look beyond just the mobile phone or something like that, or the laptop computer, but it may also include the game machine that they're playing. It could be an Xbox. They may be on a headset talking to somebody while they're playing some game. So we need to kind of broaden our point of view and make sure that we're looking at all these areas that our children are using to communicate with others, and try to come up with some strategies to keep them safe in those places.
So some of the common ones we hear are Facebook, right? Snapchat, and what are some of the other ones that you work with? Instagram, that's another big one.
Yeah, so most students aren't really on Facebook. That's something that they've migrated away from.
Because all their parents are on Facebook. That is what happened. Isn't that right?
Yeah, Facebook became more commercial and less fun, and also parents were there, which is not cool for a middle schooler or high schooler. So they're primarily on something like Instagram. They like sharing images.
Okay.
So Instagram is probably one of the largest common denominator applications for students. But what I'm hearing from students is that they're kind of becoming a bit dissatisfied with Instagram, and they're really looking for something else, and Snapchat is that app. So Snapchat is an app that allows them to share images and videos and stories with friends quite easily, and it doesn't really have that commercial feel that Instagram's becoming. Instagram's in a lot of ways becoming a lot like Facebook, which is interesting because Instagram has also changed some of their functionality to include disappearing images, which is something that Snapchat was kind of their core feature. So now we have parents who allowed their kids to have Instagram, thinking that, I can monitor what's going on, but now their child, they may not know, has the ability to send a message to someone else, and then that message will disappear from their device, and not allowing a parent to follow up and see what's happening. So
there's this feeling of privacy, like,
Yes.
okay, I can do this without my mom and dad knowing. But when I was reading your book, you've got a book, Parenting in the Digital World. So I didn't know this, but it's a fallacy
Yes.
that these pictures on Snapchat go into this no man's land.
Right.
Privacy is not true. It's an illusion. So what you said in your book is that these images that kids post, and I have, situations, right, that come across my world where people are sexting each other, taking pictures of your body parts, sending it to somebody else, or sexual videos, and doing it over this medium. There's a sense that it's safe. Nobody knows. Nobody's looking.
Right.
But so what you're telling me us is different. As a police officer,
Yeah.
can you tell us what the truth is?
Yeah, the truth is that something like Snapchat or even now Instagram is promising safety and privacy, but it's delivering neither. Because a student might think, yes, if I wanted to send an inappropriate image to my boyfriend or girlfriend and I don't want my parent to see it, or I don't want my boyfriend or girlfriend to share that with others, I might want to use something like Snapchat because I can send it to them and it's going to disappear. But the problem is that there's a lot of ways around this. I mean, obviously, you can take a screenshot, and that screenshot would be something that they could now have forever. Snapchat will send you a notification telling you that they did take a screenshot, which isn't helpful if you didn't want that person to keep that image and share it with others.
Yeah.
But how about just downloading a simple application onto your phone, which will record Snapchat with the other person never knowing. There's the idea that you can send a message or anything and not have others find out about it is
false.
It's
I
false.
mean, you were saying if you're asked to do an investigation, you actually, these powers that be
Right.
have a means of going in and finding that kind of stuff, finding those threads, right?
Yeah, when you send an image to anybody, it goes through the server of the application developer, Snapchat for instance, and then
Right.
it gets delivered to the other user, and they have to retain that image or that message, whatever, for usually about 10 days. So I have the opportunity, if there's a crime, to request Snapchat, for instance, to freeze that account, basically, to retain all that information, and then I can write a search warrant, and I get all that information given to me.
Whoa.
And Snapchat in their user agreement says, we retain the right to any image or anything that you send through our service, we have the right to use that for promotional purposes. So you don't own that anymore.
Wow.
So there's no such thing as one image on the internet. That's the message that we need to give kids, is that if you send an image, just be prepared for the entire universe to have access to that image.
I loved your quote, and I don't want to take it from you because it's yours to tell, but you were talking about before a kid hits the send button.
Yeah.
What is the thing that you said they should think about? It's in your book.
Yeah, if this is going to embarrass me or somebody else, if my parent would have a problem with this, I should not hit that send button.
Yeah. And you even said that if you wouldn't be okay with that picture, that information being on the side of a bus, then don't send it.
Yeah.
I love that image because I thought, how many of us see buses with the big billboards and thinking, if you don't want that on the side of a bus, then don't do it, because somebody can do it for you. And that's what's happening is, you'll have boyfriends, girlfriends at school in junior high and high school, and they're dating each other. And then all of a sudden there's this breakup. And so now there's this violence, right? I'm mad at you, and so I'm going to violate you by showing everybody else your naked pictures. And there's been kids that have had to have left schools because they are so embarrassed and so ashamed everybody's got their information.
Yeah, it's devastating. My first day as a school resource officer, I had a student waiting for me in my office because she sent a nude image of herself to her 6th grade boyfriend over the summer, and she's her first day as a 7th grader.
Aww.
And there's students already talking about what she did, and that is a horrible place for, 7th grade is just a difficult time.
Yeah.
It is a difficult time, and trying to fit in with all these new kids, and she has this thing hung over her head, and her parent was really needed some help, and she needed help, and that's kind of where all this, for me, kind of really came from, that gap that parents and students have.
So your paradigm, what you use with your parents and educators, and even with students when you talk at schools, is you want to look at your device in the same way, and what you're sending in the same way as you would your home. Like, who would you let come in your house? And can you talk a little bit about oversharing and what what oversharing is,
Right.
friending people that you don't know, and help us understand why that's could be really harmful.
Right. Well, I try to come up with concepts that kids can understand and apply on the internet, like real world concepts. So the
Yeah.
idea of keeping your door closed and locked when you're at home is a concept that all children understand, and that when someone knocks on the door, you look through that window or whatever, and you see who it is. If it's somebody they don't know, they don't open the door to them. They understand that that locked door is a barrier of safety to them, because inside your home are things that you care about, like your personal
Sure.
safety and your things. And I said, why should your social media be any different? Because inside your social network, you're talking about who you are, where you live, who your friends are, what you're going to be doing with them tomorrow. All this information that you would never want to share with a stranger. And so they have the opportunity to create a private network like an Instagram. And then when somebody wants to follow you, you have the option of letting them in, just like someone knocking on your door. And so I tell them that the same criteria they use for letting people in your home should be the same criteria that you're using for your social network. So if you don't know who they are, then they don't come in. The only people that you should allow in there are friends, people that you know from school, people that you can vouch for, that you know are safe, not friends of a friend that you've never met before. Because predators, there's millions of them out there on social media, on the internet, and they can present a very attractive picture and person and profile to manipulate a child, to allow them into their network. And then once they're there, they're just gathering information about that student and looking for vulnerabilities. And kids all are vulnerable because
Yeah.
they want someone to tell them that they're awesome or beautiful or I love you. And those predators know that, and they leverage that and groom them into a situation where they can trick a student into meeting them in person, or perhaps sending them inappropriate nude images.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly dangerous.
So you were telling me about somebody by the name of Zachary Reeder,
Yeah.
which happened at a Servite High School.
Yeah.
It's local here, faith-based, right?
Right. Yeah,
Catholic school. And so, can you tell us about that story? It's a painful story, but I think it's an important story for parents to really get what is happening out there. To open us up to the reality of our kids possibly being caught up in something that they don't know about.
Yeah, and in fact, it wasn't, I mean, he was an employee at that school, and he was a baseball coach, but we had victims all over Orange County because he was targeting boys that were playing baseball either against his team or on his team. And he presented as a very attractive blonde high school age girl on Facebook and got more than 100 boys to allow him into their network, and friended them into his network. And in that relationship that he created with them, he's essentially grooming them, right? He's pretending to be this attractive girl who's interested in these boys, and just kind of preying on their curiosity and their desire to get to know her better. And essentially she or he
But this picture of her, I mean, she's a hot blonde,
Yeah,
right?
she's
And she's
beautiful.
going, "Hey, I want to get to know you." And so how does what's the language that they start to use? Is it like, "Hey, I want to get to know you. You're hot. You're cute."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the kind of thing you would imagine, and
So
these,
it starts out really safe, right?
it starts out safe.
Little Bitmojis or whatever you're sending, little icons and likes and.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, she says maybe she sends him, one of the boys, an inappropriate image, like a nude image of this person that he's impersonating.
Got it.
And then so they're enticed, right? The boys are enticed by receiving these nude images, and then the promise is, hey, if you want me to send you more, I want you to send me an image or video of you.
Wow.
And more than 100 boys did that. And here's the problem is that although this guy is now caught in prison, and we have his computer and we have those images from his computer, he does what all child pornographers do, which is share his pornography with other child pornographers all over the world.
Oh my gosh,
So
I didn't know that. So
yeah.
it's like STDs. I mean, it's like these sexually transmitted images, STIs, that he gathered from your kids, and he ends up putting that in the porn industry. I mean, those videos are released?
Yeah, so as long as there's,
gosh.
these boys don't get to be a victim once and then move on. They're going to be a victim for the rest of their lives, because at any point, A police officer might arrest a
Wow.
guy and find this on his computer and then contact that boy that was the victim and say, would you be willing to be a victim because we want to prosecute this person for possessing child pornography? And so one day these boys will be husbands and fathers and maybe even grandparent, and they're still a victim. They'll never stop being a victim, and that's a horrible reality for them.
So you all know that I work in trauma, and one of the negative beliefs that gets wired in at the crime scene is the negative belief that I'm powerless, I'm helpless, I'm not in control. There's a lot of sexualized questioning that goes on. These young boys, because they're used and now find out that it was a man, can even begin sexually acting out at some point in their life earlier than what would be necessarily healthy, because they're trying to prove to themselves that I'm really not that. It's like it's hard for them. Their brains are so young and their minds haven't really gotten to that place of concreteness, and they were a victim. They were used for somebody else's gain. And so it's a violation, and it's a sexual violation, and it does impact these boys. Their lives look different. That's a part of their story going forward. And so it's really critical that we do whatever we can do to protect the kids and actually inform them.
Yeah. This is a story I share in my student presentation, usually to the junior high or high school students, because I use boys as the example. Although girls are twice as more likely to be sexually exploited online than boys, but and in my presentation to parents, I want them to understand that just because you have boys at home, you're not off the hook. You still need to be talking to your boys and looking at what's going on with their social media, because they are ripe victims for this type of situation.
Yeah. What's your TSA rule? What is that? The TSA rule?
Yeah, so when I was on the behavioral threat assessment team, I dealt with a lot of students who were angry, and they posted something online that later they greatly regretted, because they may say something very threatening online because they're angry, but they had no intention of ever carrying out that threat. And that's usually what I was dealing with. Maybe of the 120 plus threat assessments that I did in a school year, 90+% of them were this type. Unfortunately, the mere fact of them making those statements is going to get them consequences at school, which definitely going to include suspension, but a lot of times it also includes expulsion, which is something that never goes away from your record. And when you apply to a college may not want you to come to their school if you have a record of threatening people because of campus safety issues.
Yeah.
So I want to give them a really simple concept that they can remember. And TSA stands for Transportation Safety Administration. So I ask students in my assemblies, who here has gone through airport security, and they've all done it, right?
Yeah,
they all raise
their hand.
And I say, they're x-raying you and your stuff. What are they looking for? And all the kids know they're looking for dangerous objects like guns and bombs, that type of thing. And I tell them they're also looking for dangerous behavior. If you walk through airport security and if you said something, if you said something that could get you into trouble, what would that something be? And they all know the answer, which is, I have a bomb or a gun, something like this.
Yeah, just even if you were joking.
Yeah.
I've got the bomb in the bag. Whoa.
Right. So and they know, and I also ask them, does it matter if you're joking? And they know it doesn't.
Yeah, of course.
So the consequences for you in that situation are very clear. I mean, you're going to be detained, you might be arrested, there's going to be a fine, it's going to be a horrible day for you. So if you understand that idea, I want them to apply the TSA rule to school. So when you're here at school, we don't talk about guns, bombs, hurting people, and it doesn't matter if you're joking. Just by merely saying that, because we take your safety so seriously, there's going to be consequences, and sometimes we don't have the opportunity to fix that mistake. And that's where kids learn, by making mistakes, but unfortunately on social media, it's permanent a lot of times. And then I want them to take that TSA rule and apply it to their social media. I want them to think about, when they're posting something, we don't post anything about guns, bombs, or hurting people. Again, it doesn't matter if you're joking. And I've had times where a student posted an image of an airsoft gun, and then maybe the lyrics to a rap song. Then when you look at these together, it looks like a threat. And to him or her, it was just a joke, or it was something that
kind of cool art or something.
Yeah, something.
Making a statement.
And when you show up to school the next day, there's police there. We gotta make sure that's safe. and it causes a major disruption at the school, which is grounds for school discipline.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, love this start. We are going to be back because I want to do another show with you in light of how do you talk to parents about how to talk to their kids, about figuring out how to work out or contract or make a plan together, right? It's one thing to educate parents and educators, and it's another whole nother thing to have a conversation with your actual teenager or child about it. So we're going to be talking about the how-tos of that in another show. So stay tuned, and we look forward to talking more with Clay about how to safety-proof your home and the digital world.